everyone, welcome back to Reading Realm. Today I'm going to be doing a review of The Cabin by Natasha Preston. This is the fourth book by her that I have reviewed on the channel, and as I mentioned in the last video, a pattern that I've noticed with one of my friends from school who has also read some of her books always have a flower on the cover. In this one, it's a red rose, which also has spider webs on it, because these flowers can't be normal flowers, they have to be creepy flowers. I just finished recording my review of The Haunting, and in that one there's petals falling off, so yeah, creepy flowers. Not pretty, nice, innocent flowers. Anyway, The Cabin. This book was interesting because I felt like it kind of mixed some of the themes from the island with some of the other traits from her books that I've read. The main thing that I felt like was similar to the island was, as the title suggests, there's a cabin. It's isolated, and the situation that occurred was basically a closed room murder. So, no forced entry, no unlocked windows or doors. People are dead. So, that reminded me of the island a little bit in that sense of isolation and also not really having an escape or a way for people to have come to the island or leave the island. So, anyway, right off the bat, they know that it probably has to be one of the people who is there, because again, no forced entry. No one else really knew no one else that they knew of had a key to the place. And it was just kind of a situation where the protagonist didn't want to believe that any of her friends had killed her other friends. But that seemed like that was what had happened. And one of the people who was with them was someone who was the brother of another of the characters who wasn't really part of the friend group. And immediately all of the other friends, besides the main character, were saying, oh, it has to be him because we don't know him, he killed them. But the main character knows that while these people were getting murdered, she was hooking up with him. So it doesn't seem like he was the one that did it. So anyway, they get brought in to be questioned, and they're all separated and questioned. And they also are all given a drug test because they have found that the date rape drug had been used on all of them. Both the people that were killed and everyone else who had been there. And earlier, they had all cooked together, and also they've been drinking together. And I also want to say, I believe these characters are in their late teens. I believe the main character is 18. And the fact that they're publicly drinking, or not publicly, but they're drinking in this cabin, and the police aren't making a deal out of it, and a little bit of the language that's used, I believe it's taking place somewhere in England, where it's legal to drink before you're 21. I'm not 100% positive about it, but I think so. Anyway, it's very interesting in this book because I do feel like, compared to some of her others, you have a little bit more of a dynamic that involves parents. in a really interesting way, in that in a lot of her books that I've read so far, parents are kind of just there. And they're kind of just there to be like, don't go get killed, we love you, stay safe, we're gonna lock you in your room so you can't go out in the dangerous world. Which, I mean, that's understandable if people are getting killed, that parents would be protective, you know. But one of the things that's very interesting about this book is that a parent dynamic is something that the police are actually interested in terms of a motive for who might have killed one of these characters, as well as some of the high schoolers. Well, I think they have just graduated, so some of the younger characters, one of them thinks for a little bit that one of the parents of their former friend who had died from an unrelated incident to the murder might have killed these people. It's very interesting because from the first couple of chapters, and these are pretty short chapters, I got the sense that there was something really big that had happened to these characters in the past, and that even the protagonist had a big secret. She does. I found out about it. It's written about in here, and I was not expecting it. And then the other thing that had happened in the past was, like I mentioned, a couple of their friends, two of their friends had died from a car accident before this story had started. And it's very, very interesting to see kind of how those people's deaths had impacted the friend group, including how it was affecting these people now that they were having to face loss of these other people again. These new people who had been killed. It's just, this one, I don't know, compared to the other ones by her, this one felt the most different, in that I don't know if this was intentional or not. But like I mentioned in my last review of one of her books, in two of her books I had a hunch who it was, and I would kind of go back and forth a little bit, but then I ultimately had guessed right. And in The Haunting, I had no idea who it was. This one was weird, because really early on, when they were all being questioned together, still in the cabin, I believe they were still in the cabin, I don't remember, someone said something in a way that made me think that it was them instantly. Because it was one of those tells that people in, like, detective media try to find, like, someone using past tense or someone using a specific pronoun. And I don't want to be too specific because I don't want to give away who it was. But someone says one of those tell lines, and I don't know if it was intentional, but I caught on to it really early on. And then it comes out that this person could potentially have a motive against them, or a motive leading to wanting to kill these other people. And so for so much of the book, I was so convinced that it was that person. And it wasn't. So this one, I don't know if that was intentional by the author, or if that was just they wrote it and didn't really think about the way that that particular line would come across. I was probably reading too much into that specific line. But this was the one where I felt the most misled by a thing a character had said. Sometimes in the others, it would be misleading by just finding another piece of evidence. But this one, it's like, wait, but that person said... Anyway, wasn't that person. So I was wrong about who it was. I think that it's probably going to be surprising if you do read this, who it is, because I wasn't expecting it. Once it's been revealed, it makes sense. But I did not expect it. And this one, I've talked about how this author, at the end of her books, they bother me because they end with such bad cliffhangers and just completely implying that the protagonist has died or the protagonist, whatever it is that happened. They just end in ways that are so cliffhangery. They don't feel like they should be the end of a book. And this one did end on a definite cliffhanger. But it's a cliffhanger where neither of the people in the room died. Or it was implied they died. It was implied something else. But I was happier with this ending than any of the others, just because it didn't feel like, well, I have to finish this book. What's the most dramatic word I can end it on? Oh, this character has a gun. The last word of the book will be bang. Anyway. This one, both characters that were involved in the final scene are still alive at the end of the book, and it is not implied otherwise. However, it is still a cliffhanger for a different reason, because you don't know what's going to happen to one of the characters. I liked it more. I thought it was a little bit, I don't want to say lazy writing, because the way that she ends her books might be totally intentional. I know that sometimes people want to end it really ambiguous and really cliffhangery and open-ended. And that is okay. That is a writing choice. Personally, I don't think I would end a book that way that I was writing unless it would have another book after it. That's just me. Anyway, this one felt like it was actually wrapped up. It was actually, even though it does end on a cliffhanger, this cliffhanger felt a little bit less unfair. Because I think one of the things that bothered me about all the others is that it would seem like these characters had gotten through everything only to die in a really sudden cliffhanger plot twist. And in this one, the ending is a little bit less fatal. I don't know how to put it any other way than that. It's a cliffhanger, it ends really dramatically, but the ending isn't death for the surviving characters. Which, personally, I like just because I don't feel like it's necessary to kill them. And it does seem like there's a thing that could be more of a story in this at the end, especially based on the reason it's still a cliffhanger. But it doesn't feel so like the others. It's implying there can't be more story because the character is dead. And this one, it's implying this is the end of this story, but maybe they're gonna be okay. Who knows? It's a little bit vague anyway, but I think this was actually my favorite of the ones that I've read so far. Just because of the fact that I was so blindsided about who it was, it made it really interesting, but also it was the ending. It was a lot less less frustrating and a lot more. I felt like I could still want the best for these characters and want them to be able to make it out of the situation after the story's ended. Whereas the others, it's like, oh, well, I guess you're dead now. Maybe. Who knows? So, I do still really like the premise of the others, and especially the fear, I think, was very interesting with the whole thing about the social media trend determining how you die. That was interesting. But again, that one ended not my favorite way. But ultimately, I liked this book. It was definitely, I think it's longer than some of her others. It's a little bit hard to see. I think it's slightly longer. And it's definitely longer than The Island and The Fear. At least in this format. I don't know if that's just a printing thing, though, because this one also is matte, and this one is very glossy, so it might just be a difference in publication. But this one does seem longer, and I wonder if that's why the conclusion seems more like a conclusion. Just because there's more there. I don't really know if that's true or like, I don't know word counts of these books, but I don't know, I get that feeling that it's slightly longer. But yeah, I liked it. It's definitely I think the least predictable for me about who it was. That might have just been because that line did make me believe so strongly that it was that one person for so long that I might have just missed other things because I was convinced it was that person. Anyway, let me know what you thought if you've read this book, and if you haven't but you're interested in it, let me know what you find interesting about it. And thank you for watching. Please like the video and keep reading. Bye!